2 of Spooktober has brought us up to the Netherlands with the 2022 folk horror Moloch. As to be expected from a destination that is steeped in so much like dark, disturbing folklore, the themes explored in this movie are pretty fucked up, to say the least. Violinist Beatrix lives in an idyllic Dutch cottage on the edge of a forest with her daughter Hannah, her mum Elske, and her father Roloff. Beatrix's family has been through the fucking ringer, to say the least. They've had family members die of heart attacks, murder, other unexplained accidents. So, you think something's up there, and then one day, while in a trance, a mentally disturbed member of the community digs up the body of a woman from the peat bog that neighbours the family's property. This leads to a team of archaeologists to come to the bog and turn the whole thing into a dig site, and from there they find something far more sinister than they bargained for, which is it's a cool plot. I've heard next to nothing about this movie. It came up as a recommendation on one of those like top 10 scariest movies of all time posts, which I usually take them with a grain of salt, but it was the only one on the list that I hadn't heard of. Usually the post would be topped with like Sinister or Hereditary, or at least it should be topped by Sinister or Hereditary, but this one had Moloch at number 2, so I was like, oh fuck it, I've never heard of this film, I'll give it a jam. And I know what you're thinking, Jake, were they correct? Was it the second scariest film of all time? No. Unfortunately for me, it was not. It was not the second scariest film of all time. But I can definitely see how it could scare the fucking god right out of someone. I'm not saying I'm tough or anything. I mean, the whole reason I love watching horror is because I get so affected and scared by movies. I just don't think that this type of horror is the right type of horror that scares me. I love folk horror, but it's rare that I get truly scared by a folk horror. That being said, this movie's pretty bloody good. Not only is it bloody good, it's under most people's radar, which is, if you're someone who's reviewing horror movies, finding a movie that's really good and also a movie that no one's heard of, that's what we play for. Like, that's what I'm doing this for, to find this sort of shit. So I'm glad I've come across it. It works so well because everyone's just a little bit fucked. Now, we see movies in horror with fucked up movies all the time, but it's rare you get a movie where everyone's just a little bit off. If you make the main character a train wreck but everyone else is fine, what tends to happen is they steal too much focus and it becomes like their movie. A good example of this is like Toni Collette in Hereditary. Not that you shouldn't do this, Hereditary is fucking amazing, but in a movie like this that's set around almost like a community, like a village, that doesn't work. So because everyone's a little bit fucked, this movie works really well because you're trying to work out what the hell is going on. But everyone's so shifty that you can't actually nail anyone down. So it keeps you on your toes. You don't really know what's going on. I really loved the family in this movie, except for Hannah, the kid. I don't know why, but for some reason she creeps me out a lot. It's not her fault. It's nothing she did or does in the movie. I had this weird visceral reaction to her mannerisms and her speech pattern. I don't know if it was intentional or maybe I just went in far too suspicious of her. But I don't know. If my kid asked if Hannah could come over for a play date, I would not be proud of my response. Why can't you play with Brenton, the kid from down the street who lights fires? Or what about Sarah? Her mum lets you throw rocks at cars. Why don't we go see what she's doing today? Just fucking anyone but Hannah, to be honest. I don't know why she creeped me out. However, the rest of the family, they all seem really sweet. And while Beatrix, she can be a little bit of a mess at times, she has this really, really wonderful relationship with her dad. And his personality, he's like a bit of a cheeky fucker, but also in this, like, you get to see he's a bit of a badass. And that's a winning combination every time for me. I love that. So, because the family dynamic is so realistic, this movie is able to pay off in the way that it does without spoilers. With any folk horror, the lore has to be on point. And the writers, Nick Vanderbrink and Dan Baker, pulled the big brain move, and they put a team of archaeologists as characters in this movie. What you've done by doing that is basically ensuring at some point in time you're allowed to just drop a scientific and anthropological lore dump whenever the fuck you need it. Big brain moves, genius. They were definitely dungeon masters at some point in their life, I'm sure. As expected from, this sort of film, the lore is disturbing as you would expect. They're so close to the Arctic, everything's fucking dark up there. They've got so many disturbing scenes that you think it's going to be nice and fun, but then it's got like a sinister undertone. That this movie pulls that off really well. One such scene is like there's a festival parade scene in this, and it starts off like a good time, and then as the parade goes past, like every step it takes a step down closer and closer to hell. Like everyone's having a good time, and then the masks start getting a bit more fucked up, and the imagery and floats start getting a bit weirder. It does that really well, and this is a debut film. Yet another debut film. How do these people keep fucking knocking them out of the park straight off the bat? I'll never know. People are awesome. How the fuck do they do this? Films like this, they completely rely on the payoff at the end, and this one, it was worth it for me. It was worth the time investment. It only runs for like 90 minutes, so it's not a huge time investment, but it paid off for me. It wasn't particularly surprising or scary, at least as far as I'm concerned. But there is a scene where one of the archaeologists posits this hypothesis. See that? My microbiology degree. It's paying for itself. That's a big science word. They posit a hypothesis along the lines of like, oh, you don't think they're still doing X, do you? And everyone just sort of looks at them and like, it just hangs in the air. Like and that gave me fucking goosebumps. Actually, that scene was really good. Everyone's just like trying to work out if she's crazy for thinking this, is she on the right path? It's awesome. The big bad in this is suitably creepy given its folklore origins. And I think that's probably a lot of the reason why people think this is a really scary film, because it's quite well designed and it looks fucked. So yeah, maybe that's why people thought it was really creepy. This movie also does some wonderful things with like wide open, low contrast shots of forests. And the low contrast, like they make you have to like squint to see if you can see anything in the fog or the distance. And they don't give you scares all the time. Like they're quite inconsistent with their scares, which means you have to be on the entire time. You don't know if they're coming or not. If they scare you every scene, there's a scare coming, but they pace it out. And I think it works really well. The pacing works really well for that. They have fantastic use of like alarm noises, like bells, camera shutter, motion, camera clicks, doors opening, that sort of thing. And that makes you like have to listen for things. So you're like squinting the whole time and you're listening. And it's like a workout for the senses, this film. It's really good. It engages everything. This film is for people who like, if you like movies like Kill List, Apostle, The Village, The Wicker Man, this is sort of in that vein. If you like having something to solve in a film, sleuthy people, where you at? Get sleuthin'. This is one of those. I wouldn't recommend watching this if you don't like folk horror or folklore. If you don't like those films at all, if you don't like any of the films I just mentioned, don't watch this. If you want lots of jump scares, this is sparing. The jump scares are good, but they are quite spaced. So, if you want something that's like constant, this is probably not the one. If you're planning on taking a vacation to some isolated cottage in the forests of Europe, watch this after you come back. This midsummer, stay away from those until you come back. This is not for you. This is bad vibes going into your holiday. I think, all in all, Moloch's a great addition to any collection of folk horror. I don't think it's as scary as some of the other offerings I've seen in recent years. If you are looking for scares, maybe check out Apostle or The Ritual. I find them quite scary as far as folk horror is concerned. But it knows exactly what people want from Scandi scares, and it bats way above its average, given that it's a debut with fucking zero marketing. Almost no one talks about this movie. I haven't seen anyone mention it. It hardly gets recommended. So if you've watched a shit ton of horror and you're looking for something new, here it is. This is pretty weird and out there, and it's pretty fucking good. Um, yeah, that's all I've got to say on Moloch. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow for my review on The Empty Man. I've been trying to watch The Empty Man for like the whole year, basically, but it's like a 2.5 hour film, which can be quite intimidating. But I'm watching it. It's done. I'm watching it tonight. So hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow for that review. Thanks for watching. Peace.